Happy terrific Tuesday. Last terrific Tuesday before spring break. I miss you all so much. And today we are going to keep reading about how our country was founded and some of the early leaders we had in our country. The title of today's lesson is Building a Nation with Words and Ideas. Words and ideas. And we're going to hear about another founding father. We heard a lot about George Washington. Last time we heard a lot about Benjamin Franklin. Today we're going to hear all about a different founding father. So let's get started. We'll do our vocab at-bats. I have my scholar shoutouts, the objective, the vocabulary words. I'll do the read aloud for you, and then we'll check our understanding, and I'll walk you real quick through the packet work you can do at home, okay? Vocab at-bats. Who's got the word? The rocking chair is an almanac of Franklin's. The rocking chair is an apprentice of Franklin's. The rocking chair is an invention of Franklin's. 3, 2, 1. The rocking chair is an invention of Franklin's. It is an invention of Franklin's. Benjamin Franklin worked as an almanac in his brother's print shop. Benjamin Franklin worked as an apprentice in his brother's print shop. Benjamin Franklin worked as an invention in his brother's print shop. 3, 2, 1. Benjamin Franklin worked as an apprentice in his brother's print shop. Some farmers use the almanac so they know when to plant crops. Some farmers use the apprentice so they know when to plant crops. Some farmers use an invention so they know when to plant crops. 3, 2, 1. Some farmers use an almanac so they know when to plant crops. All right, scholar shoutouts. I still have not heard from anyone in ISU, but there is that one scholar in Ashford I have heard from every single day. I have a picture of work. I have an answer to a question. So listen. Have someone text me those answers, or you can text me your answers yourself, okay? All right, that means we're getting ready to move into the objective. Objective. We learn all about it. I can write a sentence to describe the contributions of Thomas Jefferson. We are talking about Thomas Jefferson today. So many of you who were at UPrep for kindergarten last year learned about Thomas Jefferson as the third president of the United States. We're going to hear a little bit more about him today. As always, we're going to get started with our vocabulary words before we do our read aloud. The first word you need to know is anniversary. The first word you need to know is anniversary. An anniversary is a date that is celebrated every year. A date that is celebrated every single year. My friends celebrated their 10th wedding anniversary yesterday. The next word you need to know is architecture. The next word you need to know is architecture. Architecture is the design and construction of buildings. The design and construction of buildings. The architecture of this place called Monticello included a domed roof. Domed, if you're not familiar with that word, here is domed. Domed means rounded roof or ceiling. Rounded roof or ceiling. Sports arenas often have domed roofs at the top. Next word we need to know is university. The next word we need to know is university. Some of you hear this word and the names of our classrooms. A university is a school attended after high school. A school attended after high school. I went to Illinois State University to study to be a teacher, all right? So it's a school you go to after high school to continue learning. Or another word you might hear is college. So university, college. That's it for vocabulary words. Quick refresh on Benjamin Franklin. He wrote Poor Richard's Almanac. He invented so many things like flippers, the lightning rod, the rocking chair. He was well liked and admired by many, and he, of course, was a founding father. I heard from one scholar what they would invent, and I really liked their response. I wonder whose responses I'll be able to shout out during tomorrow's lesson. So today, some background info. You're going to hear about Thomas Jefferson. Thomas Jefferson, one of our founding fathers, the third president of the United States. What are some things you might already know? Well, we know he's a founding father. We know he wrote the Declaration of Independence, which declared us independent and free from the British. A quick note that you need to know going into this lesson, he lived at a place called Monticello. Monticello was the name of his home, and he helped design that building. So that's already something that we didn't know about Thomas Jefferson that we've learned. He helped design buildings. He helped design places. We didn't know that. We knew he was the founding father. We knew he wrote the Declaration of Independence. Now we know he also helped to design buildings. So I wonder what else we're going to find out about Thomas Jefferson in this read aloud. Here we go. Go ahead, get into your GLP and get ready to learn. Benjamin Franklin enjoyed the company of another patriot, Thomas Jefferson from Virginia. Jefferson was often the youngest person in the room when the founders met in Philadelphia, whereas Franklin was the oldest. Like George Washington, Thomas Jefferson was always ready to serve his country, but the place he most liked to be was at home with his family, just like George Washington. There was a saying you might have heard in kindergarten that Jefferson used when he talked about his home. What was that saying? Ah, yes, there's no place like home. So Jefferson was very similar to Washington. He was from Virginia and he loved to be at home with his family. This is Thomas Jefferson's home. When Thomas Jefferson was a young lawyer, he started building a house close to the farm where he grew up in Virginia. Built on a hill, he named it Monticello, which means little mountain in Italian. He worked on it for many years, before, during, and after the war. The image you see here is present-day Monticello. This is what it looks like today. Jefferson traveled in Europe and brought back many ideas from France and Italy. Because of Monticello and some other buildings he designed, Jefferson is called the father of American architecture. So it refers to the design of the buildings or the way it looks. And he's thought of as the father of American architecture because he was one of the first people to really think through and plan what all of these different buildings would look like. In fact, Jefferson was one of the people who worked on the design of Washington, D.C., our nation's capital. Like Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson liked to invent things. For his house, he invented a pulley system that opened doors and a mechanical clock that kept track of the days of the week. He also invented a dumbwaiter, a shelf that could be piled high with food dishes, raised up from the kitchen downstairs to the dining room, then lowered back down with the empty dishes when the meal was over. So not only did he design this building, he also invented a lot of different things to be in this building to make living more comfortable for himself and his family. Thomas Jefferson was one of the most important writers in the colonies. Remember, he was the author of the Declaration of Independence. Because he wrote so many important papers and letters, he wanted to be able to keep copies for himself. So Jefferson bought a copy machine his friend Charles Wilson Peel made. It was one of the first copy machines ever invented. As Jefferson wrote at his desk, a second pen would automatically write the same thing right beside him. This is a modern day picture of what we think the invention looked like. It has pencils, but Jefferson's machine would have used quill pens. With this machine, Jefferson could write you a letter and then hand you a copy of it right away. So he could continue his work away from home. Thomas Jefferson invented a lap desk that he could carry with him on horseback that could hold all of his paperwork and office tools. So think about this lap desk as something like you or I would use as a backpack. This was his equivalent of a backpack. After the Constitutional Convention and the election of George Washington as the country's first president, Thomas Jefferson returned to Virginia to work on Monticello. But when he was not at Monticello, often he was off representing his country, sharing his ideas both in America and Europe. Thomas Jefferson served as the ambassador to France, and he was our very first Secretary of State. He was the very first person to be in charge of all of our relationships with other countries. So there's something else we learned about Thomas Jefferson. He was an ambassador to France, and he was our first Secretary of State. George Washington served as President of the United States for 8 years. When he retired to Mount Vernon, another of the founding fathers, named John Adams, took his place, becoming America's second president. Thomas Jefferson became John Adams' vice president. The vice president is someone who is second in command to the president. 4 years later, Thomas Jefferson became our nation's third president. In the 8 years that he was president, he did many things to help the young nation grow. The election of 1800 was when we elected Thomas Jefferson as our president. One of the things that Thomas Jefferson believed in most was public education. He realized how fortunate he had been, having the chance to attend excellent schools all of his life. But he knew that not everybody could afford to do so. Perhaps Jefferson's greatest project was planning for a public college in his state of Virginia. A public school is one that is funded or paid for with the people's tax money. A college or university is a place to continue studying after high school. He designed buildings, chose the subjects to be taught, and raised money to build the University of Virginia. The university was built on a friend's farm just down the hill from Monticello so that Jefferson could watch it being built. I'm noticing the roof of this university, and I'm noticing that it's similar to Monticello in that it has the same kind of shape. So Thomas Jefferson designed these buildings, designed this similar shape, and also believed that education, a higher education, should be affordable for the public. Thomas Jefferson died on the afternoon of July 4th, 1826, just hours before the death of his friend John Adams. The second and third presidents of the United States of America died on the 50th anniversary of Independence Day. An anniversary is celebrated every year like your birthday. Your birthday is the anniversary of your birth. So Jefferson died 50 years after the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Like George Washington and Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson is remembered in many ways today. Some of our nickels, or 5-cent coins, have a picture of Thomas Jefferson on one side of them and a picture of a domed building on the other, right? So you see that dome on the back of that coin, much like that dome at the top of University of Virginia. Can you guess what this building is? That's right, Jefferson's beloved Monticello. And that's our read aloud today about Thomas Jefferson, the third president of the United States. We learned that he's the father of modern architecture. We learned that he served as vice president to one of his closest friends, John Adams, and we learned he was an inventor himself. All right, so now, did Thomas Jefferson do this? So a question will appear. I'll do this for yes, and this for no way. Your job is to track how many I'm getting correct. Have mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, aunt, uncle text me and say, Miss Colma, my scholar says you got this many right or this many wrong. I want you to text me how many I got right and how many I got wrong so I know you watched my video. You get to tell me how many times I was correct. Here we go. Did Thomas Jefferson help design Washington, D.C. and his own home, Monticello? I think yes. I remember he was called the father of American architecture, so I think yes, he did help design those buildings. Did Thomas Jefferson lead the Continental Army? Yeah, I think he did. I think he was the one who was in charge of the army at Yorktown. Ms. Coleman's saying yes, Thomas Jefferson led the Continental Army. Finally, did Thomas Jefferson found the University of Virginia? Yeah, I think he founded that place. I think because the building looks similar to Monticello. And did he serve as president of the United States? Well, I know that. Yes, he was our third president. So I think yes, Thomas Jefferson did all four of those things. If you think I have one incorrect or some of these incorrect, have someone text me to let me know so I know I have the information correct, okay? Check my understanding. You take a few seconds and talk about this with mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, aunt, uncle, someone at home, okay? What important job did Thomas Jefferson have that George Washington also had some years before him? What important job? What important job was it? I'm going to give you 10 seconds. 10, 9, 8. Jefferson is called the father of American architecture. What were some things he designed? We learned that George Washington and Thomas Jefferson are pictured on money. Is this a good place to put the faces of people that we want to remember? Should we put the faces of people we want to remember on our money? I'm going to give you 15 seconds on this one because this one requires a little bit more thought. 15 seconds. All right. Why was public or free education important to Thomas Jefferson? I want you to go ahead and talk about this with someone at home. Pause the video and take a minute to talk about why was this important to Thomas Jefferson. Hit that pause button, hit play when you're ready to resume. And I want you to share with Mom, Dad, Grandma, Grandpa, what's something interesting you learned about Thomas Jefferson? What was the most interesting thing you learned about him? All right, so these are the packet pages that were sent out. If you don't have them, that's okay. I need you to use 3 of our vocabulary words in a sentence. I need you to use anniversary, architecture, and university. Anniversary, architecture, and university. Write a sentence for each of those words. So this is what the paper looks like. If you don't have it, that's okay. You can just get notebook paper and pencil. And you can pause the video right here. The words in bold are the ones that I want you to write. Anniversary, architecture, and university. Write a sentence using each of those, okay? Have Mom, Dad, Grandma, Grandpa send me a picture of your work so you can get a Grow Our Team point for those sentences. And that is it for today, scholars. That is all the facts we are learning about Thomas Jefferson, father of American architecture, 3rd President of the United States, author of the Declaration of Independence. I really hope you guys learned some great stuff about Thomas Jefferson. Again, have Mom, Dad, Grandma, Grandpa text me something letting me know that you watched this video so I can put you in my shoutouts, okay? Stay home, stay safe. I miss you all very much. Bye.